Hi there. Over the past few years, e-commerce or so-called online commerce have grown drastically. In today's talk, I would like to convince you that, in my opinion, the future of e-commerce will be based on open source technologies and JavaScript programming language. My name is Jakub, and I am a senior full stack developer at Vue Storefront. I'm also an ambassador in Next.js, which is a Vue.js based framework for building server-side applications. And I'm also an ambassador in Storybook, which is a headless CMS, and Algolia, which is a quite popular search engine. Why have I selected this topic for today's talk? Basically, a few months ago, I defended my master thesis in my university, which was called Open Source E-commerce Vue Storefront Case Study. In this thesis, I was analyzing several enterprise and open source solutions for e-commerce that I will also explain in this talk. And I analyzed both advantages and disadvantages of all of them. So by looking at all of these tools and solutions, I thought that it would be good to share it with you today as well. Also, on the right, there's a picture of me holding not exactly my master thesis, but my laptop where the master thesis was. So, how big companies see the future of e-commerce? Because the title of this talk is based on my opinion. However, other big companies think similar as well. For example, if we take a look at Salesforce, they say that the business can grow and extend their brand quickly to meet their needs. This is the requirement for the future of e-commerce. So they propose a concept called headless commerce that I will also cover in today's talk. So headless commerce, what it actually means. So in simple words, headless commerce is a software architecture where we are dividing the front end of our application, of our e-commerce application, and the backend. So the front end will be a presentation layer, like a UI part that the customer or client will see. However, the backend will be whole logic, like products, categories, login, like authorization, authentication, and so on and so on. So by going with this approach, businesses can have the flexibility, like big companies can have the flexibility of a startup or a small company. If we take a look at the visual representation, we have the front end on the left, which is like the UI part, and the backend, which holds the product data, categories, and so on and so on. However, we can take this approach to another level by going for composable commerce. So if we take a look at the headless commerce, we can say basically that it's the separation of the front end and the back end. So I will use the terminology like storefront and the e-commerce platform. So this is headless. Composable adds something else to this headless architecture because apart from the storefront and the e-commerce platform, we can also add external, like third-party services, like content management system, search engine, maybe some payment gateway, asset management, and so on and so on. So composable commerce means headless commerce with additional services, and they are all combined into one application. So what do you need to build a successful e-commerce website nowadays? I would say that you need three main blocks. The storefront, which is like a front end, so presentation layer for your customer. The e-commerce platform, which will hold the whole logic of your e-commerce, so products, categories, handling orders, registering users, customers, checkouts, and so on and so on. and content management system. I will explain why content management system is quite useful in the next slides. So right now, let's take a look at the tools that you can choose that are both open source and based on JavaScript. So we will start with the e-commerce platforms, so the backend of our e-commerce website. I will start with Venger. So Venger is a headless commerce platform, headless commerce framework for building e-commerce websites. It is based on Nest.js, which is like the framework for Node.js that has a support for TypeScript, that has support for it is basically like an Angular in terms of backend web development. So you have things like controllers, modules, services, providers, and so on and so on. It also comes with the admin UI that you can see here, and also comes with GraphQL as a default, so that you can fetch data about your products, categories, search results, and so on by using queries and mutations. And also another tool that you can choose instead of Venger is Medusa. It works quite similar. It is also JavaScript based, but in this case, Medusa is REST API, no GraphQL, and it's fully JavaScript. So you don't have TypeScript support. So if you compare both of these tools, you can choose. If you prefer REST API, you can choose Medusa. If you prefer GraphQL API, you can choose Venger. Same with JavaScript. If you are okay with just JavaScript, you can go with Medusa. If you need TypeScript, you can go with Venger. So what about the storefronts? So in Vue ecosystem, you have Vue Storefront, where I work. So Vue Storefront is a front-end platform, like the storefront, as the name says, that is purely for headless commerce. So we have this separation between the front-end and the backend. But it also comes with the composable commerce under the hood. So if we would like to have not only separation from the front end and the back end, we can also connect to our Vue Storefront application, search engine, content management system, payment gateways. I will for sure show you the content management system integration in the later slides. So this is the Vue ecosystem. So if you prefer to build your e-commerce website with Vue.js, you can choose Vue Storefront. However, if you prefer React, you can go with Next.js Commerce. You are free to go. So if you prefer React, you have Next.js, which works fairly similar to Vue Storefront. So you have this storefront ready out of the box that can integrate with backends like the e-commerce platforms, with the search party services, and so on and so on. There is no Angular, though. Maybe it's just me, but I wasn't able to find anything that could compare to both Vue Storefront and Next.js Commerce in terms of such a big application that you can easily build or easily start your next e-commerce website and can connect or integrate with several e-commerce platforms. So it can be related to the fact that both React and Vue are very popular in GitHub, and it's also only metric in terms of GitHub stars. It's not a comparison in terms of the popularity or questions in Stack Overflow. I just put here a star history, which may be an issue in my opinion. So the low amount of stars might result in the fact that there is no such project as Vue Storefront or Next.js Commerce for Angular. So we talked about the storefront and the e-commerce platform. So what about this content management system? In my opinion, adding a content management system to your e-commerce website can take it to another level, because nowadays customers, they don't just go to the e-commerce website to just see the data about the product. They need something else, something more. So they need content. So basically, by adding a content management system to your e-commerce website, we can have 4 of these points covered. So basically, if you would like to have the content, like for example, some banners or the reviews, or maybe some kind of videos about the product itself. Let's say that we have a nice looking dress, and below it we have a video to a YouTube where someone is showing how this dress looks. Or maybe we have some blog post about this dress that it looks nice with something else. So this content then can be easily modified by marketers or designers, basically not technical people. So we don't rely on the developers while editing the e-commerce website. As I mentioned, it is another channel for reaching potential customers because, as I mentioned, it's not only about seeing the product data. Right now, it's also about reading about the product, reading reviews, seeing how the product can be used. And also, content management systems allows those writers or marketers to work together. So it's not only about one person that can add new articles or video links or reviews. They can work together. So they can do some brainstorming about the new article or blog post. So in terms of open source and JavaScript based CMSs, headless CMSs, we have, again, two big options. Strapi is the first one, which basically is a really good headless CMS, like open source headless CMS. They have very good documentation. They integrate very easily with many external services as well. And you also can easily integrate Vue Storefront and the XJS commerce with Strapi. You also have Ghost, which works very similar as Strapi. So in this case, there is no such big change between those tools. It's not like one is built using React and one is using Vue. It's more like they are both headless Node.js based CMSs. So by taking a look at this, what I mentioned in a few previous slides, you might think that building headless commerce or composable commerce can take ages because we have storefronts, we have e-commerce platforms, we have content management systems. So there is a lot of things to cover. However, it's not as difficult as you may think. In the next slide, I will show you a short video where I am basically building an e-commerce website with Vue Storefront and Venture, so the two tools that I mentioned in the previous slides. And it takes less than 2 minutes. So the instructions are straightforward. We are running a Venture server, which will create a database for us, for our products, which will also ask us if we want to use TypeScript or plain JavaScript. And we also use the SQLite just for the simplicity of the tutorial. Then we will create a Vue Storefront like front-end application and just add some environment variables so that it can connect to the GraphQL API of our Venture server. And just adding also some authentication methods like the bearer token. Yeah, adding also some configuration to the Venture configuration file and just running the Venture server. So the queues, the database, it's all ready. Now running the Vue Storefront. And as you can see, we have fully functional website. We have product page, category page, we can add to cart, we have the cart, we have the checkout as well, where we can add the information about our customer, steps, customer, shipping, billing, also shipping method, and finally payment. And that's it. So below 10 minutes, we are able to build a e-commerce, like scaffold e-commerce website by using both Vue storefront and Venture. So what is also interesting about this is that these two tools allows you to scaffold this e-commerce website really, really fast, as you can see below 2 minutes. But it doesn't mean that these tools can be changed. It doesn't mean that you get this kind of store and nothing else. You can't modify it in any way. Both of these tools have a lot of customizability options, like the flexibility, so that you can modify many, many things. For example, let's say that you would like to modify what data you are fetching from the Venture server, from the Venture GraphQL API. On the Vue storefront part, it can be easily done by using the concept like custom queries. So basically, you can write your own GraphQL queries that will be fired or triggered instead of the default ones. So very easy stuff to modify the content, to modify how we are fetching the data, sorry, not the content. On the Venture side as well, there are many options, like for example, modifying the checkout. We can very easily define how we want the checkout to work. So for example, instead of the customer step, we might want to just go to the shipping or the billing. It's completely up to us. So building an e-commerce like headless commerce is really straightforward. It can be done in below 2 minutes. So what about the content management system? I recorded a video where I am adding a story block, which is a bit different CMS than the ones I was explaining in the stock, because in the stock I was talking about Strapi and the Ghost. However, the integration with content management systems usually is very similar. They are done mainly on the front end, and the process of integrating them is quite straightforward and similar. So in this video, I also explain how to add like headless CMS to your Vue storefront application, but I won't be bothering you watching the video right now because it's more technical, like step by step how to add store block. But just to show you, it takes a bit more than 2 minutes to just add the story block, so the headless CMS, to your e-commerce website, to your storefront. So what I mean by that is that you can build this like 3 pillars e-commerce website. So storefront, e-commerce platform, and the CMS in below 5 minutes. So it's quite impressive, I would say, considering that if you would like to build it on your own from scratch, it will probably take weeks or even months. So I would say that indeed, future of e-commerce is open source and JavaScript. And I mentioned it in the beginning of the talk. It was basically my topic of the talk, of the presentation. But I also prepared some points to convince you, apart from what I mentioned in the previous slides. So why I think the future of e-commerce is based on open source technologies and JavaScript programming language. First, it allows you to scaffold your e-commerce website in minutes. So what it means is that if you want to try it out, like just to see if this is something that could work for my company or for my personal project, you can do it in minutes. So as you could see on the video, just few commands, click, 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 down. The application is working. You have a fully functional e-commerce website. Second, choose the best of breed solutions. So if you want a CMS, you can take Strapi, or you can take Storyblock, or Ghost, or Prismic, or anything else. Basically, you are free to choose whatever third-party service or external service you may want. So it can be Algolia for search engine, it can be Storyblock for headless CMS, can be Venture for e-commerce platform, or Medusa. You are free to choose whatever solution you want. Connecting to the first point, free and open source. So first of all, you can try this e-commerce website in minutes. So you can create it, start it, install, build, ready store for you. And it's free. So you don't have to pay anything for it. You can try it in minutes and you don't have to pay anything for it. And also open source and supported by international community of contributors. So tools like Vue Storefront or Next.js Commerce, Venture, Medusa, they are basically backed by some company. Like, for example, in Next.js, you have Vercel, in Vue Storefront, you have Vue Storefront, and so on and so on. But around these tools, around these projects, there is also a huge community of contributors. So people who are looking at this project, trying to improve it, trying to add new functionalities, trying to fix bugs. So basically, it means that there is a lot of people who are working on making this project even better. And the last point, using modern technology stack. Because if you look at the storefronts, you have Vue.js and you have React.js. If you take a look at the backends, you see, for example, the Express.js for Medusa and the Nest.js for Venture. If you take a look at CMSs, you have Node.js, you have Vue.js, and so on and so on. So if you are looking to update your legacy technology stack, you can easily do so with the following tools. And that will be it for my presentation. I hope that I managed to convince you to my vision about the future of e-commerce. If you have any questions or suggestions or topics you would like to discuss with me, I highly recommend you to contact me probably through Twitter. It would be the best. I am most active there. So at Jacob Andrzejewski. Similar on the DevTools, it's the same, Jacob Andrzejewski. And also on GitHub, and also I have the YouTube channel if you like to see similar content as this one. Thanks once again, and see you next time.